Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet. Hello, and welcome back to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. If you've been following along, you know that the last episode was the first exorcism that Wes had, and that was a powerful and, very painful episode for you to record. So, Wes, how have you been feeling since that last episode?
Andrea, that episode was very, very difficult for me. The listeners, they hear the edited version, and the reality is it took us a while to make that. We had to stop a lot. So thank you for supporting me going through that. I appreciate it. I've had several listeners reach out, which I didn't tell you about because I always wait to tell you on the show anyway.
Thanks, a little surprise.
Yeah, because I forget everything. So, but some people reach out and said, hey, I didn't realize that was that difficult for you. And, it was, but we took 2 weeks off. I went to the mountain, did some work with Lakota, which was nice, got recharged, and did some community service for her. So it's nice to be back. I'm excited to be recording today. And, did I tell you lately that we've got the best listeners in the world?
No, tell me more.
Yeah, because we have listeners all over the world. So thank you. Tell a friend.
Yes.
We're going to be on some guest shows here real soon, so we're working out the details on that. So that's going to be fun.
That's exciting, yes.
We will let you know who that is so you can go to their podcast and listen to us get interviewed. It'll be fun.
Yes, it'll be a new adventure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So what are we doing today?
Well, you told me earlier that we're going to talk about Jesus.
Yes, we're going to talk about Jesus today. I think it was episode 6 in season 1 was the first time we spoke about him in detail. And as you well know, the energy work that we do, the work that we do, Jesus is doing the work. I'm just the tool. The healers are the tool. And so in that episode, I was working with Sandra Grace, and it was my daughter's birthday, and she was in the hospital. So long story short, he showed himself to me when he was being crucified. Then he showed himself to me in his tomb when I met Mary. And then we went to the Last Supper, and finally he took me to the Valley of Death. And that's where I stepped into my power. That's where I claimed Jesus in my life. And I said, my name is Wes Coons, and I walk with Jesus Christ. And that's when I became authentic with myself, and the energy exploded out of my chest, and the light filled that valley and pushed the demons away, right? So that was the first time. The second time, I had to have a surgery. And it was the night after the surgery. I was home. I wasn't on pain medication. I didn't really need it. I don't know why. I just didn't. But I remember sitting there thinking about this journey, and I asked Jesus, I said, what is my purpose here? I don't understand. It's all been so confusing. And I was kind of in a little bit of a meditation. I was laying there, my eyes were closed, just contemplating things, because the honest answer is they just removed a tumor off my spine. And when I was asking that question, I seen him in my mind. I heard his voice. And he said, my journey is not over yet. And the reason he said that is there was a part of me that didn't want to be here. Let's be honest. I didn't want to be here. He said, your journey's not over yet. You've brought people to my church before, and you're going to do it again. And you are going to build my army. Now, I interpret that as I am going to heal people for him, because as he did that, he showed me a vision of me standing on a stage. To me, it was like the Church of Wave Church over here in Virginia Beach. where I was standing on the stage. I knew it was a Saturday. I knew the church charged me $500 a Saturday to do healing work. And I knew that people came there for group healing sessions. There was homeless people in the stadium. There was homeless people in the chairs. There were children there that were clearly fighting cancer. They had their IV bags. They had their nurses with them. There was other people in the room. And he showed these angels coming in and sitting with each person. Each person had 3 angels. And I knew from that moment forward that I could call angels in to heal people. And that's how a lot of my work happens, is angels or Jesus will show me how to do certain things. And I just remember being so awestruck, not only that, this is real, that he made the time to come to me and to give me this clear answer and then show me how to do his work at a deeper level. So I take my work very, very seriously. So I think, Andrea, that was the second time.
Yeah, and was this during the haunted house or after that you saw this?
This was after.
Okay.
Yeah, this was after.
Like you were already doing healing work at this point?
Yes. So the haunted house was fixed. I had probably already taken my Reiki 1 course with Trinae, and yeah, I wasn't a Reiki master yet, I don't believe. But, it's been a long 5 years. So it was definitely after the haunted house. It was definitely after I was doing healing work. And so I don't know exactly what time that was. I hadn't really processed that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting because when I work on people now, the angels automatically come in. I don't have to ask. So I can do one of 2 things. I can send angels to somebody. I can bring angels into the room. And most of the work that I do now, angels come in when I'm working on the client automatically. So the way I do healing work has changed probably 1,000 times in the last couple of years. In the beginning, what I did on Monday is not what I did on Friday. It was bizarre because as I was working on somebody, angels would show me what to do, or Jesus would show me what to do, or just sometimes I just knew how to do something that I'd never been shown before. And so it would change the way I did my work.
That's really interesting how it evolves.
Yeah. So there's that. The normal
Your
shit we talk about.
Your typical day.
Yeah. Hey, how does the angels work with you? Well, let me tell you. So I had a friend named Dawn. And I love Dawn. We were in the JCs together, 16 lifetimes ago, it feels. And, life happens, and she went her way and I went mine. And I noticed that, over the years she had been fighting breast cancer. And one day I felt called to reach out to her. And I said, hey, would you like to come in for a healing session? So this was just right after the haunted house. So probably the first year is after the haunted house in the first 18 months. Because when I got out of the haunted house, I was in a temporary rental at the beach, and this was a permanent rental that I was in because there was nothing to buy. The market was crazy. And so Dawn comes in, and of course we're instant friends again. And she teaches me how to live. She was teaching me how to live while she was dying. And she would come, and I had this healing room set up in the upstairs bedroom at this house I was renting. And as you come into the healing room, it's a hardwood floors. And then in the middle of the room, I had my healing table, which is basically a massage table. And underneath that, I had these crystals and these stones. And then in the corner of the room, Lakota had created a mini medicine wheel. And if you don't know what that is, it is a sacred wheel for the Lakota, for the Native American culture. And it's a circle of stones, and it's got a crisscross in it that represent the four directions. And Lakota says this is a direct conduit to God, that you can stand in that and receive a healing. It changes the energy of the room. So I had all this extra energy in the room that helped me do God's work. And so Dawn would come on a regular basis, and we would talk, and she always had a smile on her face. She was always laughing, and this woman was struggling at such a deep level. I loved her so, so much. Well, I had her on the table one day, and I felt this energy come in the room. I mean, it was extraordinarily powerful. I had no idea what it was. It was like this giant bubble of golden light, and it was so powerful it almost burnt my skin. It's like staring at the sun. So she's on the table, kind of out of it a little bit, just chilling out, her eyes covered. And she goes, "Wes, what's going on? I feel something just entered the room." And I thought that was interesting. She felt it too. And I told her, I said, "Honey, I don't know." And about that moment, Jesus came through the wall and showed himself to me. And I remember just being just so awestruck, not necessarily seeing him, but the unconditional love that he carries is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, to feel that, you'll never, ever forget it. You'll never mistake it for something else. It is the most beautiful, most pure thing you will ever experience. And I remember looking into his eyes, and he represented himself to me like you would see what you think Jesus is going to look like. And his sleeves were moving back and forth, and they were tattered. He wasn't in this golden robe of holiness. He was just in these almost rags and stuff, and just like a common person back in the day. And when I looked into his eyes, he told me, "I love you." And that's the second time I believe he said that to me. And I just remember just instantly sobbing, instantly crying. And the energy was so powerful, I couldn't stay next to Dawn. So I'm backing up against the wall. And at this point, I am against the wall, pressed with my back towards it, because his energy was so powerful, I couldn't step forward. Plus, I was intimidated. And he takes his hands and touches her stomach and touches her chest. And he looks up at me, he rolls his eyes up at me, and he says, "This woman will not die from cancer." And she could feel it. She could feel him touching her. She could feel his energy flowing through her body. And it felt like he was there forever. I didn't want it to end. And when he was done, he just looked back up at me with his eyes. And then he stepped back, and I remember feeling this overwhelming sadness because I wanted to go. I didn't want to be here anymore. And it was so, I don't even know how to explain the intensity of his love that he has for everybody. We all have that. And I remember how excited Dawn and I were afterwards because she was going to the doctor the next week and her test results were through the fucking roof awesome. And they got better and they got better until they didn't. And I didn't understand why they didn't. I'm like, he came to us. He was there. He said she is not going to die from cancer. And then I was reminded, we have free will. And one of the things that she wasn't able to do was let go of her anger towards her husband. And her anger that she carried was not letting the cancer heal. And then she had a conflict with her husband that we're not going to disclose here because we're going to keep that sacred. The problem was she couldn't fight what was going on in her personal life. She couldn't fight the cancer at the same time. So as we have free will, that free will of her not being able to let go of some things. And then there was a legal battle between her and her husband that she couldn't fight. And my friend goes on this trip. She flies to like Utah or something. And I think when she flew, that supercharged something in her body. And she died in another state on the other side of the country. She never told me how sick she was. She would never tell anybody that. And I remember the day she died, I woke up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I kept staring at my phone, and I didn't understand why. I was waiting for something, and all of a sudden there was a phone call from Dawn. And I'm like, hey, girl. And she's like, hey, I'm in Utah trying to get home, and I need you to do me a favor. I'm like, sure, anything that you want. It was the only time she ever asked me for anything. She said, I need you to get all your healer friends together and heal me. And she said, I'm not going to die in Utah. I said, oh, honey, I don't see you dying in Utah. I couldn't see it. I was too close. I was too close to her. That morning, her children flew in, and somebody took her daughter and put her on a private jet from the Caribbean and flew her across country for free. I mean, who does that for somebody, Yeah. And as Dawn was dying and they had to bait her, she had a chalkboard and she's writing on there. She was writing messages to her kids because she couldn't talk anymore. You were beautiful. You were gifted. You were loved. And then she went home. I can promise you, I was more than heartbroken over that. And I was so fucking confused. It took me a minute. I almost quit doing healing work over that. And then Dawn started coming to me when I was doing healings and I would see her. And I didn't see her as you would see her as a human, but I knew it was her. It was like this golden orb. And she was there and I didn't understand it. And so I would set her to the side in my mind, in my healing space, and not let her participate. And then I was doing some healing work with Margaret. I asked Margaret if she could remove the energy of unworthiness from me. And she's like, oh yeah, you can do it. And I'm like, the fuck I can. Because me working on me is not going to work. Me working on you, is going to happen 100%. You know, there's that piece of you, that piece of me that is still not healed. So there's this aspect that I can't step into my full power with me. But if you show up in my healing space, oh, we're going to fucking fight the world. I'm going to do my job and I'm good at what I do. But when it comes to me, there's that piece that's missing, right? You know, that bullshit story that I believed my whole life that said that I was ugly, weak, and stupid. That bullshit story that says you can't have this and you can't have that and you can't become this. That I believed, the cage that I put on myself, because at this point I'm a grown-ass man. Because when I was told that as a child, you know, I'm not responsible for that. I'm not liable for that. But as an adult, I am. It's my job to heal. It's my job to dig deep. It's my job to peel the fucking layers back and feel the pain and do the work and not do this bullshit story of everything you have is inside you. Well, if it's inside you and it's fucked up, it's still fucking fucked up, right? You know, when you hear somebody say that person broke me, good. I'm glad they broke you. I'm glad it broke me. I'm glad she broke me, or whomever that was. Because now I can take the pieces and put them back the way they're supposed to be. Because I'm doing the fucking hard work. You know, I'm going deep inside. I am looking at every aspect of myself in every situation, and I am taking responsibility at the deepest level, even when I think I didn't fucking do nothing wrong. That just tells me I ain't looking deep enough. Because guess whose fault it is, Andrea?
It's yours.
It's Andrea's fault. It's my fault. So I couldn't do the work for myself. The honest answer is I asked Margaret today to do some work for me because I couldn't do it myself. I tried, but it wasn't complete. And I am not afraid to say that I need help. I'm not afraid to ask for a friend to help me. You know, the last few months have been difficult. This podcast has been difficult.
Yeah.
You know, Andrea and I have a deal. If I call and I'm struggling, she holds the space for me. We hold the space for each other if we're struggling. And if we need more, then we have to ask for it. Because that means I'm stepping into my power saying, I need more than you just being an ear for me, right?
Yeah.
That's how you support each other. My buddy Brian, you know, Brian Cavanaugh, one of the greatest trainers in the world. I fucking love this guy. He's in Virginia Beach. You know, we do that for each other. You know, because the old story is men are supposed to just go to work and you're supposed to do your job. And, you know, you're not supposed to have feelings. You're not supposed to have emotions. Then we turn around and our significant others are like, where's your feelings and emotions? I'm like, well, fuck, we've been told we ain't supposed to have none. Right? We're breaking the chains of that old pattern that you can't be a man's man and have feelings. Bullshit, you can't. Come hang out with my ass. I'll cut down a fucking tree and cry while I'm doing it these days.
Yes, he will.
You're right? I'm like, I'm in tune with myself. I'm working hard. And that is the new fucking man in my mind.
Yeah.
You know? Now, I share this because people need to hear there's a different way. People need to hear that it doesn't take forever to heal. People need to hear that you are beautiful, you are gifted, you are loved. So Margaret has me on this table, healing table at Spiritual Relics in Virginia Beach. And if you haven't figured out, I share who my healing friends are because it's important. It's important for people to know that we are here and that we are safe. So she's starting to do the work, and I love Margaret. When she feels energy, she gets all kind of loud. She's like, ooh. And she is just so incredibly gifted and powerful. And she's my friend and she's my mentor. You know, she's one of my mentors. And so she's starting to do the work and she starts to back away from the table. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, what the fuck, man? You know, I know enough that when Margaret's backing away from the table, it might not be good. And she's against the wall and she says, I can't do the work. I'm like, you said you could do the work. She said, you don't understand. And she's starting to sob. I can't do the work. And, you know, I'm getting a little frustrated. I'm like, well, fuck, you know, I want this fixed. I'm trying to figure out what is wrong. And she said, honey, you don't understand. Jesus is here. He's going to do the work. And about that moment, she said that I could see him standing above me. And he looks down with his eyes. And you know what he said? Right. He said, your tax bill's late.
We've been looking for you about your car insurance.
Yeah, your fucking car warranty expired. He looked at me, he said, I love you. And I got to be honest. That hurts when he says that. At least then. Because I fucking hated myself so much. I couldn't process how somebody could love me. I couldn't process how he could sit there and say, I love you, and I've done these things in my life, and I've been this wrong person before, and I've lied before, I've cheated before, I've stolen before, I've done these things, and you're telling me you fucking love me? You know, this raped little piece of shit boy, this ugly, weak, and fucking stupid, you love me? But he loves me, and he loves you. And he placed his hands on the top of my chest and on my stomach. And he reached into my chest and started to pull out that unworthiness. And that felt like, you know, in the military, you've got those big heavy duty mops, those rope mops.
Oh, yeah.
They're like weigh 50 fucking pounds. It was like one of those being pulled out. You could feel the weight of it. You could feel all of that coming out at once. And he has this little smirk on his face because he's actually pretty funny. And he pulls it out. And, you know, from that moment forward, I can't feel unworthiness in my body. You know, because unworthiness was a fucking lie. I believed that lie. I lived that lie. And some of y'all are believing and living that bullshit right now, too. And it's a fucking lie. And he pulled that out of me. And the energy in the room was so crazy. I believe Margaret and I both went home and couldn't work really for a couple of days. But it was like 6 days before I could look down on my chest, and where he touched me was golden handprints on my skin. It took like 6 days before those faded away.
It's unbelievable.
So it was extraordinary to go through. And so Margaret comes over and finishes everything up after he's done. And then, I don't know, a little bit after that, I don't remember how long it was, I was working with this lady, and she was going into the Akashic records and getting a message for me, right? Do you know how to explain the Akashic records?
I mean, isn't it just a place like in another realm where it's a log of everything that's ever happened to anyone ever? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, I think so, pretty much. So some of y'all might have a better definition of it, but it's basically everything that's there. And she's an attorney. She does this work part-time, and she's very, very good. And for life of me, I don't remember her damn name now. So if I find it, maybe we'll have her come on the show. So we're going through the Akashic records, right? I'm laying there on the sofa. We go into this little 2 or 3 minute meditation. You breathe in, breathe out, and you kind of get in the zone. And Jesus came in. So I was sitting there, and it showed me floating. And when I looked down below me, I could see this chariot. And the chariot had one white stallion pulling it. And the chariot was going, and the chariot was being pulled through the clouds. And you could see it was solid gold. And I could tell that the angels had hand carved all the decorations and stuff and the flowers and everything on the chariot. And as I was floating down, I floated through the top of the chariot, and I was in the back seat, back left. And as I was floating in, I was looking to the right, and there was Jesus. I'm like, oh, fuck, what's happening here, Like, all right, cool. Going for a ride with G-Man, And he took his left hand and put it on my right knee. And he looked at me, like your dad would do. You just sit down and he just touches you. And I remember as he did that, I looked out the window and Dawn was there. And she goes, hey, Wes. And I'm like, hey, Dawn. And it wasn't her as this human figure. It was this golden, like a oval-shaped mirror of liquid gold. And I'm like, hey, Dawn. I said, how are you? I miss you so much. You don't understand the depth of pain losing her. The depth of pain that I felt in my body from losing my friend. Because I was gonna heal her. I was gonna fucking save her. And she was going to move to the beach, and she had moved and signed a lease to be at the ocean front. And I was going to learn how to surf with their children, and their kids would come over and they would swim in the pool. And when I came home, I felt like I had a fucking family. Dawn would be on the sofa wrapped up in a blanket because she was cold. And I would cut up apples and stuff. I'm like, honey, you haven't eaten today. And I'd make sure she ate. And then I would cook dinner for her kids, and they'd play in the pool. And I wanted that. I wanted to do that with her and them. They were my friends. I wanted to see Dawn get healthy and then see Dawn. They showed her getting remarried. They showed me her future husband. I wanted her to have that. I wanted somewhere to go to have dinner. I just wanted my family, And that was all gone. She goes to me, it's okay. I'm not in pain anymore, Wes. And I remember crying. I told her, I said, I feel so bad for your children. Their mother was gone. And she said, they're going to be okay. Because I know what Dawn instilled in her children before she died. She instilled the Word of God. She instilled this light inside of them that all they have to do is pull the fucking chain and it turns on. And I also know that we're here on our own journey, and our children signed a contract to be here, and they were supposed to experience this, and Dawn's not supposed to be here. And all of a sudden, this beautiful friend of mine is some fucking badass hanging out with Jesus. And I'm like, all right. And I start using her in my healing space. So I would breathe her energy in. And as I push the energy through my hands into my client, they would have these healings that were through the roof, more powerful, more crazy, more beautiful than ever before. And my clients are like, dude, I don't know what you've done differently, but you are infinitely more gifted, infinitely more powerful now than you were before. And Jesus showed me that I could use her because they were together. So I was open-minded enough to see that. And as I looked back over to Jesus, it's the first time he's ever used a name. And he said, Paul, I've kept you blind so you do not become arrogant. And today I will give you your sight. And I did not know what that meant. So when I see things, it's more of a knowing than seeing that. I'm not seeing the glass in front of me. I know the glass is there. So I'm like, fuck yeah, man. We're going to get some cool shit today, right? This is fucking badass. I'm like, where else can we take the stallion, and the fucking chariot? And as he said that, I stood up and I start walking up the stairway, no pun intended, the stairway to heaven. So I left his chariot, and as I got to heaven, it was extraordinarily beautiful. All these souls, all these angels were coming to greet me. I could feel this love from thousands of people. They were just so grateful that I was there. And something grabs me and puts these angel wings on my back. And I remember seeing these golden wings that come around the side. They're huge. And these hands coming to me, and they're putting these plates on me, on my chest and my back. And then they put this belt around me. And I didn't understand what was going on. And Archangel Michael came in, and he's my buddy. I mean, when he's here, it's like, it's like two 15-year-old kids that have been getting in trouble their whole life, seeing each other after 20 years. And he embraced me. And I remember just starting to cry. And I was like, I told him, I said, I love you. I miss you. And he embraced me, and he says, we've waited for you for a very long time, brother. I am so proud of you. I love you so much. And you can feel this depth of our friendship, and he kind of pushes me back and holds my shoulders, and he just looks at me. He's this big motherfucker too, I'm thinking to myself, I could fuck your ass up, man. Marines are crazy. I'm like, yeah, he ain't that big. But he loved me. He loves me. And he hands me this sword, this golden sword that's like 6 feet long. And as I grabbed it with my right hand, he just looks at me. He says, you're going to need this for the work that you're going to do. And I still feel it in my right arm as it like incorporated inside my skin, inside my bones, to where nothing can take it from me. And then somebody walked up to me and put this helmet on my head. And I remember looking through, and things looked differently. And then Michael handed me this golden shield, and it had a carving of a stallion on the front on 2 legs. And I grabbed that with my left arm. And it was heavy. And he just looked at me with this love in his eyes. And all of a sudden, everything started to fade away. I have no idea what was going on at the time. And my friend Sharon texted me the next morning this thing out of the Bible talking about the golden armor of God, which I'd never heard of before. And as I read that, it is everything that I experienced, is everything that I received. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? They gave me the golden armor of God, right? So that night, I am at a meeting that somebody asked me to go to, and there's this guy that was talking. He was just being a dick, and I just remember looking down saying, why am I fucking here? And as I was thinking it, I looked over. I'm like, I bet this guy's got a demon. And as I looked over, this demon pulls out of the back of him, and he looks at me. And, that's how I see them in people. And it was spiritually attacking me. So what that is my third eye, it was like something was like shoving the sticks in my third eye. And your third eye is in your forehead. That's your connection to your psychic abilities, your connection to God, whatever you want to call that. And it's very painful. And I remember looking down in a way, I wasn't afraid, I was just irritated. And then I remembered what happened the day before. So I looked at him, and in my mind, of course, not out loud in this fucking meeting, I said, fuck off, motherfucker. Don't fucking look at me. And he cowered and looked away. And then I'm like, oh shit, you gave me something that makes the demons go away? So I looked at him and said, you go back inside, I'm going to fucking kill you. So he like shoots back inside. And then he sticks his head out. And in my mind's eye, I just grabbed that sword and just swooped it across and cut his head off. I don't know where he went, but he didn't show up no more after that. And so when I see those things out in public now, I'm like, you can fucking go away or I'm going to kill you. It's your choice. Either way is fine with me. I'd prefer to kill you, but I'm trying to be love and light these days. And so that's when Jesus gave me the golden armor of God.
That's fascinating. I'm really fascinated that your friend sent you that passage from the Bible the very next day.
I know, right?
And
it's Sharon. I can promise you Sharon is not a Bible person. And I asked her, I said, why do you even have this? She said, one of my friends sent it to me, and I just for some reason felt like I needed to send it to you. I'm like, that's how God works. You know, he speaks through the TV to me. He speaks through the radio to me. He sends people to me. He sends things. He sent me Andrea. You know, we wouldn't be doing this work if it wasn't for Andrea. Ain't no fucking way. These books wouldn't be done if it wasn't for Andrea. You know?
Oh, I always thought I was a gift from God, but thanks for the...
Yeah. You're a pain in the ass, but, you know, besides that, you know, hey, your ex-husband might not think that. I don't know. So what about the person that comes in town that you have dinner with and won't tell us anything? What do they think?
I had dinner one time with one person.
Oh, yeah, just one time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do want to say a little bit more to, like, that's how Jesus works, right? Or how God works, or even the universe, whatever you want to attach to it, because there have been so many times in my life recently where I just have a little bit of, I don't know, like having a bit of a down day, and then someone I have not spoken to in a long time will send me something like, hey, I just want to let you know I think you're fabulous, or whatever, right? Like just out of the blue. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, oh, like I needed to hear that right then.
Yeah.
And they were just compelled to do it. And they don't know why they were compelled to do it. But that's how that happens.
Yeah. It's like, you know, my friend Diana will reach out, or Betsy or somebody, and just say, hey, you make a difference today.
Yeah.
And those are days that I need to hear that. So I've got 2 more quick stories you want me to tell.
Okay, yes.
The other time was where I was having the Akashic Records read again, and I wanted to know how Jesus healed people. And I've had people tell me, you walked with Jesus. That's why you have gifts the way you do. And I don't know how to process that. I don't know. It's a stretch for me to even say it. So, you know, I try to stay pretty humble with my work, even though...
And with your good looks.
My shockingly good looks. I know. It's hard to be humble. Hard to be humble. But I remember asking, you know, Jesus did not present myself, but I remember in my mind, I said, Jesus, can you show me if we did walk together, what did that look like? And instantly, he and I were back in the Roman time period, walking down this hallway. There was sand on the floor. You could tell where you were at. You know, I looked at him. He had rags on him. And we were walking up, and there was this opening coming out in this corridor or something. This all was outside. And I could hear people say, here he comes, here he comes. He's going to heal us. And as we came into this opening out of the corridor, Jesus walked off to the side, and I remember looking. I'm like, "Dude, where are you going, man? They're coming for you. They want a healing, and they came to me." And I remember looking at him and I just felt shocked. And he had this little smirk on his face because he's pretty funny. And I reached up and I touched this lady's shoulder. And she yelled, "He healed me. He healed me." And as I looked at Jesus, he just had this glow about himself, letting me step into my power, knowing that we did walk together, that we were friends, that we were connected. And this is how I healed people. He didn't show me how he healed people. It was extraordinary. It changed so many things for me. It helped me step into my healing gifts so much deeper.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, that's also a good story about, showing other people their power, right? Like,
Yeah.
like that's the most important thing we can do is let someone see their own light.
Yeah, it is. When we see our own light, we're here to be a beacon of light. You can't be a beacon of light if your light is out. So the next time he showed me something, I was doing a little meditation. I was just doing some self-healing. And I asked, show me what it was like for us in that time together. And he instantly took me to the Sea of Galilee. And there was a bonfire. The apostles were all around the bonfire. And Jesus and I were off to the side talking. And I knew it was the night before something heavy was going to happen. And I didn't really understand what it was, but it was like a bunch of friends having a bonfire, chilling out. Jesus knew what was coming, but we did not. And it wasn't a very long vision, but it just showed me and him talking, and I could see the other apostles, and I knew they were the apostles. I just knew it. I knew it. I don't know their fucking names, but I knew who they were. And I remember, I'm sitting there. You're sitting on this beach of rocks, and I'm kind of looking around and just taking things in, and I made eye contact with him. And he just had this little smirk on his face that he has. And, he smiled and he just said, "I love you." And I remember that time I didn't cry. I said, "I love you too." That was right before he got arrested, just before they crucified him. I don't know the details in the Bible. I'm not going to go read all that shit and look it up. I just, is what my gut shows me. And I don't need to go read that because I know what I experienced and I know what he showed me. And it is extraordinary and it is beautiful. Those are all the ones I can think of right now.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of times to have an interaction with Jesus.
There's that. So with that being said, we got Margaret's show or episode getting ready to come up.
Yeah, so Wes mentioned Margaret a bunch of times in this episode and how amazing and gifted and just wonderful she is. And we had the privilege of having her on to speak a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to actually release that as a special episode. It'll come out right after this.
Yes, and she is doing these excursions to Egypt that are fantastic. So if you want to go, you can find her through her stuff or reach out to us. We'll connect the dots. I can't go this year, but I'm definitely going next year.
Sounds amazing.
It will be. So thank you for listening to the show. And Andrea, thanks for being here. This has been great.
Thanks.
All
See
right.
you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.